This episode contains strong language and adult themes. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Okay, here we go then. Who's got something playing in the background? I can hear a TV or something.
It's my daughter, and I'm not telling her to turn it down.
You're too scared.
You're too scared. Mel, Mike, the host of 22 Dropouts, who absolutely wants to wind you up, said, "Can you turn your telly down because they can hear it?" Yeah. Recording live, and they want you to turn the telly down because they can hear it. I know you're watching Doctor Who, but you know it's fucking up the recording.
Well, for fuck's sake, then.
Did she just slam the door on the way out?
No, she's now going to bang the cupboard doors because obviously she knows we're recording. See?
Great place to start the show. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 15 of the wonderful, very professional, and never ever fucked up show, the 22 Dropouts. As you can hear, over in Malta, there are some domestic issues with cupboard doors tonight, aren't there, Sam?
Aye, just a few cupboard doors and probably a fridge door. Stay in my peanut butter, you little bugger.
You do know we have started the show when we are recording, don't you?
Shit.
Now, so tonight, as you probably see, as you can see, there's not quite 22 of us tonight because Chris is working again, which is unusual for him, obviously, and Tom's got a family thing on. So, whilst Sam did say, let's take the mickey out of the two guys that are absent, and James, well, the internet has flown away from Inverness tonight, and he's really struggling. So James might be joining us at some point as well. And we would normally take the piss out of people who can't join us or don't want to join us, but it's just more fun to take the piss out of you and your cupboard doors being slammed, Sam.
I know. She's stealing a nice lolly now. That's my freaking cornetto. Don't you shake your ass at me, you little madam. What was I going to say? Listen, I think we should make Melissa like, you know, my daughter, you know, a freaking mascot or something of 22 Dropouts because she's in every freaking episode.
She is actually in every episode, and if you want to put her in a rugby kit and bounce her on your knee when we score a try or something, yeah, you feel free. We won't laugh at that one little bit, mate.
Yeah, I'm not going to bounce her on my knee because I might break my freaking knee.
You are in so much trouble.
She's not like, you know, 4 or 5 years old, mate. She's like 22.
Lorence,
anyway,
Lorence, how's things over in Kenya, mate?
At least now we're off a lockdown, but still waiting for sports resumption at least, so that we can see our life a little bit normal.
Does that mean you can get beer again?
That's what I was just going to ask. Does that mean you've done your beer run?
Yes, I can.
Do you still need to take ID with you when you go to buy beer?
Yeah, because I'm short, unfortunately.
I'm short. I just don't look 12.
It's just got nothing to do with the fact that you're short, mate. It's got the fact that you've got no bum fluff on your face. You haven't started shaving yet.
Hey, look, talking of beer, have you seen this here? All the way, so last week, as you know, we had Jason Clark from Genius Brewing, who supports the Doddy Weir Foundation. We actually found out that Doddy did stand on him in a rugby game once when they used to play together. James has sent us, all the way from his brewery, wonderful samples of his new, very healthy, Genius Brewing Craft Lager. It's only 3%.
I bet that tastes really good, doesn't it, Mike?
Well, I tell you what, just for you, I'm going to do this live on telly now.
I hate you right now. I actually hate you right now.
Nice and cold. It's been in the fridge for a couple of days.
Lorence, you've got to tell him you hate him as well. Lorence, tell him you hate him. He's going for the slow pour as well.
Can you taste it already, boys? I mean, look, you're going to be licking your lips in a minute.
Oh, you're an absolute twat. I don't care, it's been recorded. You're a twat.
It is, as I say, it's only 3%. There's only 79 calories per can as well. And to top it all off, 5 pence from every can goes to the Doddy Weir Foundation for MND. You can buy it on flavorly.com, and they've got some cases of 12 and I think cases of 20 in there, and they put some other beer snacks in as well. So, Doddy, Jason, 22s, particularly those who are unable to get any because we couldn't send it overseas. I'm just going to taste it for you
Lorence, give him the finger. Lorence, give him the finger. Stand up for men's rights.
Wrong finger, Lorence. Hey, do you know what? That's really good.
I bet it is, yes.
Oh, mate, yeah. That's very refreshing. That's the sort of thing you want. Nice summer's day, in a beer garden, socially distancing, or for a business lunch. You can now have a beer at a business lunch without going, Christ almighty, it's 5, it's 6%. That's really good. Jason?
I have heard it's good. I genuinely, not just because, you know, we're promoting Genius Beer and what they do for, you know, the M&D Foundation and stuff like that. I've heard that it is actually quite a good beer. So,
it's got a lot of flavour. I like that.
Well, all I'm going to say is it's good that it's, what is it, only 74 or 79 calories?
79 calories a can, I think, yeah.
That should be your go-to beer from now on, Mike.
It could well be my go-to beer.
It should be your only beer, Mike.
Well, I am going to apologise right now because it is a bit fizzy and I might burp on air. So
no, don't do that.
I'm going to excuse myself now.
Don't do that. It's okay to give the fingers. It's okay to give the fingers and swear and stuff, but you can't burp on air.
What, you mean like that?
Yeah.
You mean like that?
Yeah. You
can do that, can't you? Lawrence, you can do that, can't you, with both hands?
He's going to ask me to do it next time. No, he is. He's going to say,
no, I'm not.
You can't do that.
No, that'd be cruel, wouldn't it, mate? That would be so cruel.
That's exactly where you were going with that. You were going with that. Anyway, let's get back to taking the piss out of Chris.
Do you know what? In the news.
Oh my God, we're gonna get sued by like Universal Studios or something.
So a few things in the news this week. Hashtag you heard it here first. Manu Tuilagi has gone to Sale Sharp. Now, to be fair, we all took the piss out of James when he said Manu's going to Sale, because we went, nah. And then, of course, the gaffer came out, didn't he? And he said, we're not talking to him. And, we'd tell you if we were. And that, I think that was enough. His comments that I would tell you straight if I was talking to him, it was enough to move the reporters onto a different story. They just left it alone. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, it's announced that he's signed. And there are a few other signings going on at the moment, but I do just want to make it a serious point at the moment, and that's sending our best wishes to Taylor Goff, who's 20-year-old forward from Tigers. Now, Taylor, I don't know whether you know, was involved in a car crash about a month ago, and at the moment he's got severe spinal injuries and he is partially paralysed as well. Now, Leicester Tigers, great news that they are obviously going to support him in any way they can. And Taylor, look, we send all our best wishes to you. We wish you every well for a speedy recovery as well. If there's anything that we can do to help, we love drinking beer that raises money. But no, in all seriousness, we wish him a very recovery, don't we, guys? So, Manu, come on, what do you think about Manu then?
I think it's a freaking a right good thing for Sale Sharp. As long as he can stay injury free for a good length of period, then it's good signing. Because he'll hit the ground running, I think, there, as long as he stays fit.
Yeah, that's the key with everything that he does, though, isn't it? It's to stay injury free. That's the main thing.
Yeah, he's a big ball carrier, isn't he? So it's massive.
Yeah, the Prem is going to restart allegedly on the 14th of August. The timetables are in, the fixture list is in, and they're going to have midweek games as well. But it also has meant that Premiership Rugby has said we are not going to impose any restrictions or fines if clubs do not field their strongest team, which of course for the Premiership that there is those stipulations in place just in case they go, it's a dead rubber game, we're not going to get anything out of it, or we're relegated, and we save the star players. Obviously, it's a TV revenue, ticket sales is all about people seeing those star players. So, but that's one of the regulations that they're going to drop. Talking of the pandemic and how it's hit rugby as well, I see the Gloucester CEO. He's confirmed that the club so far has lost £5 million during the pandemic as well. So we talk about redundancies at the RFU. We've seen over the last few weeks that we've been reporting. Did you get that? That sounds like we're actually a real show, didn't it? The last few weeks when we've been reporting on people moving on, and we know because some of them have been on the show, and some of them since have sent us show reels to ask if we can send them to our contacts in the States. Which the three guys who've done that, we have done already. And can we share their show reel with D2 clubs that we know in France and things like that? It's a tough old world out there in the sport at the moment, unless you're unless you're Manchester City, of course, because then you can do what you want with your money, and you can win a court case because you've got even more money probably than UEFA has, so you can throw more at it than anybody else. So it is interesting. So Lorence, how is it going over there? Obviously, it's not quite the same over there. In the players are paid to play, but that's going to be a concern for them anyway, because part of their normal weekly wages, monthly salary, that would all be taken into account. Have you got any schemes over there that are helping people?
Yeah, fortunately, we've got one from the Ministry of Sports within the country that's at least supporting the national team players, both men and women, and also the juniors under 20. But the rest of the clubs now, players are being seen diving into other jobs, trying to seek new ways of getting at least something on the table for themselves and for their families also. A difficult moment actually in Kenya for rugby players and athletes on a whole spectrum, but we hope when everything probably returns to the new normal, at least players can go back to what they actually love doing.
No, and are you missing your 57 pence that you get for each game of rugby? Do you know, when I saw the expenses and what they get paid, for running a game, I thought, wow, they're big numbers. Then I converted it to pounds and realised they weren't.
During the 7th circuit, that's when at least you get some good cash. But during the 15th season, things are terrible. Well,
yeah, and of course, sevens is the bigger game over where you are, isn't it?
Sure.
Well, we've covered the news. Who'd have thought? We've actually done some serious news tonight. So it must be time for us to take a commercial break, because I want to finish this and put another one in here. Sam's licking his lips now, and he might have to go and get a drink. But we'll be back after this break. And we will be joining you with tonight's special guest, all the way from New York, of all places. So we'll see you right after this. Welcome back to part 2 of your favourite podcast and YouTube show. It is the 22 Dropouts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us on our channels, and also to check us out on social media on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Just search for @22 Dropouts. Now, tonight's special guest is a former Australia schoolboys player who spent 3 years with the Waratahs over there, and then decided to take a 6-week holiday to Sacramento, and he's never looked back since. Currently fly half with Rugby United New York. It is Harry Bennett. Hi, Harry. How are you?
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're more than welcome, mate. More than welcome. How's things over there, then?
Yeah, not too bad. 3 o'clock here, so I'm a couple hours behind you. Obviously, I know protocol is to make sure you've got a beer in hand for these sessions, but still a few more hours in my day before I can crack into that stuff. So very jealous.
Well, actually, you can crack into this anytime. It's from a company called Genius Brewery, based in Scotland. It's available on flavourly.com. It is only 1 unit of alcohol. It's only 79 calories. And Sam's going, I want one, but we couldn't send any over to Malta. 79 calories, 1 UK unit, and only 3%. You can drink it any time of the day, Harry.
There you go.
Can you do me a favour? Make sure you actually have that particular beer that you've just been picking up and shaking. Next.
Oh, you want me to have this one next, do you?
Yeah, the one you've been shaking. The one you've been shaking. Yeah. Bugger.
I'm not that stupid.
Oh,
Listen,
so close.
Don't piss on my leg and then tell me it's raining, sunshine.
That would have been funny.
So, Harry, what happened with you and this holiday in Sacramento then?
So, when was it? 2014, I had 2 back-to-back shoulder surgeries back home in Australia. And prior to that, hadn't done a lot of international travel like a lot of my mates did. So, fell in love with USA sports, got in contact with a rugby club over on the West Coast in the US, and things worked out. Got a accommodation and a car from them to play a bit of footy for a couple of months. And yeah, 2015, 5 years later, still haven't left. So enjoying my time in the States, that's for sure.
And what's it like in the MLR compared to, I know you weren't in the the senior squad all the time at the Waratahs, but it must be a bit different between the two.
Yeah, I think the massive difference is just being a new competition and a new team here in New York. Is there's a lot of players from all walks of life. Like obviously back home in Australia, 90% of your players are from Australia. In the UK, 90% of your players are from the UK. But where we are in the States, it's pretty vast in terms of where guys have come from, and everyone's got a pretty interesting journey. So I think trying to culturally align with everyone on and off the pitch. Everyone has their own philosophies and ideas of how they want to play rugby. And that's probably been the most enjoyable and interesting challenge so far.
That must be quite good, actually, because instead of, you grow up in Australia, you play rugby in Australia, you've got Australian coaches, everybody's come through the same system. But here it's a great big melting pot of ideas. Yeah.
No, massive. And I mean, I'm well into my rugby career at the moment. I'm still getting challenged on different ideas just from having, Irish or New Zealand coaches and players from other parts of the world as well. So it certainly keeps you on your toes and I guess makes you appreciate different perspectives of how the game could be played.
So what's your favourite moment been so far since you've been in the States?
Favourite moment since being in the States actually hasn't got anything to do with Major League Rugby itself, but every year there is a tournament in Aspen, Colorado called the Aspen Rugger Fest. I'm not quite sure if you guys know about it.
Yeah.
It's one that I think you certainly should put on your calendars. They actually do have a golden oldies competition there as well, boys, if you want to throw the boots back on. But
what are you saying? Come on, Christ, mate.
I've still got some here left. I know he's bald, but I've still got here. Come on.
But the off-field there is a pretty amazing experience. And if you just do a quick Google of that rugby pitch, it's one of the most pristine, amazing rugby pitches in the
I'm going to challenge on that one, Harry. I think Aspen's ground does look spectacular, but I think the one up at Anchorage in Alaska, mate, is surpassing one. But for the midnight sevens, that absolutely looks stunning up there.
Bit harder to get to though, isn't it?
Just slightly, but I can fly from an island in the Mediterranean to any place, mate. Wherever I want to go, I'm going.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's one of the to-do list tournaments, shall we say? So yeah, it's definitely on there.
Yeah, it has to be. I think originally founded by Blackheath Old Boy, I think, back in the UK as well. So the colours match, but certainly you enjoy your time off the field as much as you enjoy the time on the field when you go to Rugby Fest every year. That's for sure.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? Third half. 100%. That's what the game's about. That's how we grew it. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, if you're on tour all these around the USA and everywhere else, and yeah, on one of my screens, Lorence is staring intently to see what you're talking about. On the other one, he's disappeared. He's turned into a little black square. So, Lorence, hi. Just stick another 50p in the meter. Pedal a bit harder on your bike, or get your hamsters to do it, and you'll get your internet back. Although I've got to say, it's still better than it is in Inverness, which is why James isn't with us at the moment.
Yeah.
So, I can hear you, Lorence. I just can't see you.
I can see him.
Can you really?
Yeah. Hey, he's all there, mate. Trust me, he's got his finger in his ear right now.
He's frozen on my screen.
He's frozen on my screen.
No, I've got him. It must. I tell you what, your internet must be poor, boys, and
Oh right, yeah. You've just got your daughter running around now, generating wind power.
Yeah. I was going to ask Harry actually, mate. Harry, see with obviously all the cultural differences you have, at your club with all the guys coming in from different places. That must mean there's some pretty decent stories going on there. Some things that players have been up to and all the fun stuff. So, spill the beans. Let's hear a few.
Yeah, well, I think anyone that's travelled to New York City knows that there's plenty of opportunities to see the city in any capacity that you want to. We've got a pretty strong Irish contingent over here in the New York team as well. So I think most of them would call New York City. Actually, I think there's more Irish people living in New York than there are in Ireland itself.
Probably, yeah.
So not shy of finding a pretty good Guinness in the colder months of the year. So without going into too much detail, our post matches are pretty enjoyable over here, that's for sure.
He's hiding.
That's got me thinking now. That's really got me thinking. We're going to have a tour.
He's hiding the truth, Mikey. He's hiding the truth.
Look, I'll tell you this.
We need specifics, Harry.
There's a little pub up on the Upper West Side called the Dead Poet, and it's, I think, been ranked about 4 years in a row now of having the best Guinness in New York State. And if you want to become a member there, you get a Guinness card. So every time you buy an $8 Guinness, they put that on your tally. And every 1,000 pints of Guinness that you drink, you get a plaque up on the wall, Hall of Fame. And they put your start date to your end date of how long it takes you to do your 1,000 pints.
Couple of weeks, Sam?
Yeah, well, we tried to do the math. There was a couple of the boys that tried to have a crack at it, but I think the running record at the moment that's still standing, not a player, but I think he did it in like 2.5 months, which I think averaged out to be about 8 pints a day.
Wow. Yeah. And in 2.5 months, $8,000 on Guinness.
Yeah, it was worth the while, apparently.
And what did he do to lose all that weight afterwards is what I want to know.
No, I think he's having a crack at the 2,000 now. It's ongoing.
Yeah, jeez.
No.
He's going to go for the Guinness World Records.
Yeah. But what else are you doing in lockdown at the moment?
Good effort.
If you've got the money, why not, I suppose.
To be fair, he's probably
nothing else to do.
If he's in the Dead Poet pub, he's probably a poet or some damn thing like that. He's probably well paid for what he does.
Well, if he wasn't, then he is now.
Yeah. he's probably more famous now than he ever was before, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've all got to have our 15 minutes of fame, haven't we, anyway? Lawrence, have you got a question?
Yes.
Now that you're back, do you want to ask Harry something, mate?
Yeah, of course, and it's a silly question to Harry. If he has perhaps any favorite pair of jeans?
Say that again, Lawrence.
Favorite pair of jeans, was that, Lawrence?
If you have any favorite pair of jeans.
Favorite pair of jeans? It's a good question. Actually, there's an Australian brand called Subi that's over here now. I don't know if you boys are into the skinny jeans, but they're a skinny jean make that's got a good...
Mate, men should never be in skinny jeans. Ever, ever, ever. No man.
I feel like Lawrence was teeing me up for that one.
Well, actually, Lawrence might, because he's got pipe cleaners for legs. We've never heard of that.
With that question, it reminds me of that part in Friends with Ross trying to put the talcum powder on, trying to slide up the black leather jeans. Do you remember that team? He's sliding them up and he couldn't get them off with the sweat and stuff.
Yeah, well, it gets pretty humid here in the summer months, so.
Apparently it does over in Kenya and it does over in Malta. It just doesn't here where we are, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I'm just going to pour another one, Sam. Sam, you asked Harry a really important question while you watch me pour this beautiful, and I'm careful because this is right over my laptop now. I'm pouring this beautiful,
don't spill it or anything. Well, I'm not going to talk about the size of the head on that because that would be wrong, but let's not go there.
You see, pouring pints probably isn't one of my talents.
How long have you been with the New York Rugby Club, mate?
Since the inaugural season, so coming on year 3 now. Yeah, so Major League Rugby started 2018.
Yeah.
And then we came into the competition a year later, 2019, and then obviously this year everything got cut short. So going back around again for year 3, 21.
So what are the biggest changes you've found?
Biggest changes year to year? Well, expansion's obviously a massive talking point over here. Every year there seems to be 2 or 3 new teams that come into it. And then with that, you've obviously got interest from guys overseas. But I think the major thing is just trying to keep the standard of play within the domestic playing pool as competitive as possible. So that disparity between, a new college player that's just learning the game probably 3 or 4 years ago, and obviously this year having the draft for the first year, there's a lot of hype around that. But putting him on the same, training paddock or playing field as, a guy like Ben Foden or Bastereau or the Beast, who's
or even this Harry Bennett. I mean, he's been around the block a bit as well.
He's been around the block, but certainly not in that category of conversation.
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge. I think next year there's going to be 3 new teams in the competition. So where do you find that domestic playing pool that's consistently topping up year to year? So I'd say
they need to sort the collegiate system out really for 15s. 7s is okay. Mike and Phil have been very, very vocal already that all we need to do is take proper athletes, because 7s is a relatively easy game to teach. But 15s is so much more complex as to where you stand and when, and reading the game is much more difficult. But you've really got to start at that younger age, haven't you? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think there's more resources and sort of emphasis going into the college game. I'd go a step further and say that, the high school system probably needs to be that next step to be able to develop kids going into college rugby.
Yeah.
Because most of those guys that are, learning rugby for the first time going into college, they're exiles from football or lacrosse or something else that want to give it a crack and maintain, a social sporting lifestyle. And, if they get that development at a high school level, they could be freaks.
I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at you, Harry. I was laughing at him being a twat with a beer again.
No, I saw it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you actually, Harry. So, if my mind serves me correctly here, your club's actually tied up with the SRU, Scottish Rugby Union, isn't they?
No, so that's the DC Glory.
Okay, so right, okay.
They're connected with Scottish Rugby, and I think they've actually done a really good job in terms of creating a good pathway and maybe bringing some of their academy players over to get some exposure. We've actually had new ownership come in over the last 12 months from New Zealand. So we're going to get a bit more influence in terms of the, Southern Hemisphere over here as well.
Now, I think you dodged the question a little while ago about some of the best times and the funniest times. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit now, and I'm going to say, what's the worst thing you've got up to with your teammates before or after a rugby game?
Right. I know where you mean, and I promised this story, so I'll tell you. So this is long before Major League Rugby came about. We'll talk 2015, I think it was. I was about a couple months into my tenure in the US, so I was definitely still, wet under the gills per se, I guess. But I was playing with a club over in Santa Monica. At the time, was probably the highest level of amateur semi-pro competition on the West Coast. but at the same time was tied up with a social club called the Beverly Hills Rugby Club, which was, I'm not quite sure if you've seen it, but go give them a look. They got some pretty amazing content. A bunch of Aussie expats living on the West Coast that loved rugby, were far better at the after-hour stuff than they were at the on-field stuff, but just created this really good brand. Anyway, Las Vegas Sevens circuit that they used to do every year was in February or something, and it was a lot like the Hong Kong, where they'd have like a social tournament prior to it. So that was mid-season for us, for the Santa Monica team, but because I was tied up with it, I'd never been to Vegas before. I had my arm twisted to be involved in this Beverly Hills team, and convinced my coaches to give me Thursday night training off with the promise that I'd get the first flight back Saturday morning to play.
That's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah. So missed training Thursday, flew out with about 30 guys from all over the world, mostly Aussies, but all over the world, to Las Vegas. About 40% of us hadn't been to Vegas before, so it was a pretty new and amazing experience. We played a little bit of rugby on the Thursday and the Friday. We did a pretty good job of getting ourselves into a situation for the post-match and seeing the best and bright lights of Las Vegas after all the games were finished. But Saturday morning came around, and I was supposed to be on a 8 a.m. flight to get back to LA to play a midday game, which I don't know how I got myself around to it, but I made the flight. I certainly made the most of my time prior to that experience, but the main priority for me was just getting on that flight 8 a.m. Saturday morning. So I'm on the flight, probably lacking a little bit of sleep, but I think what I lacked in sleep, I had enough confidence that I'd get through the game. In my seat, head down, headphones on, trying to drink as much water as possible. I get a tap on my shoulder, and sitting next to me is our coach.
Have they flown out just to check you got on the flight?
So the best thing is we had two coaches. We had a forwards coach who was a South African guy who was, as all South Africans are, very passionate and very adamant about rugby and doing the right thing. And then another coach who was our backs coach was another Australian guy who was, we're not going to name him, but self-proclaimed at the time probably the Bachelor of Santa Monica. So he was looking for a good time as much as the rest of us. Anyway, I get a tap on the shoulder on the same flight. He's done the exact same thing as I've done and snuck out to Vegas for a day and a night, hoping to get back for rugby. We're on the flight. We're both looking at each other, saying, like, trying to give ourselves a bit of encouragement, pep talk. You'll be right. You'll be right. You're not as bad as you look. You're not as bad as you feel. All this shit. Anyway, we get an Uber to the field, both of us together. Same thing, trying to just like get ourselves good. My roommate at the time was another South African scrum half, good guy, and I go straight up to him because he's a pretty good sort of gauge as to where I'm at with things in life. And the first thing he said to me was just like, "Mate, what the fuck? You've got glitter all over your face."
Well, you are a back. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I got it. I have no idea. Let's just say Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But he's just like, don't wash your face. Like, warm up starts in 10 minutes. You're already late. Like, you need to get yourself sorted. Get out there. Halfway through the warm up, I've tweaked my hamstring, and it's gone pretty bad. So clearly dehydrated as hell and just struggling physically and mentally through the process. And our South African coach is regretting the decision to allow me to go to Vegas, and he's just like, "What the fuck? Like, I can't believe you've done this, blah, blah, blah. Like, how bad?" And I'm like, "I promise you it's not related." And I'm looking over at the backs coach, the Australian who was on the flight with me, and I'm like, "Give me some support here, mate. Otherwise I'm taking you out with me." So he's pulled the trigger and is like, no, it's fine. Like, it's just a tweak. It's not worth risking it. we'll sit Harry out for the game. If he's needed, we'll bring him on in the second half or whatever, but we'll be okay. Hasn't taken his sunglasses off since the flight, so he's in as work shape as I am at this stage. Anyway, game's over. I don't know how much of it was the hamstring or just me mentally thinking I couldn't get through 80 minutes of rugby at this stage. Anyway, the boys back in Vegas, without telling me, had pre-arranged a flight back to Vegas immediately following the game. So it wasn't a good look jumping in an Uber and going straight back to the airport, but an experience I certainly won't forget. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's class, that is. And how was the trip back?
No, I mean, a couple of mimosas on the way there. I was good as gold.
Good stuff. That's class. That's class, that is.
If I can ask Harry, perhaps any best practical joke you've ever been involved into? Or...
Ooh, practical joke, rugby-wise.
It doesn't mean to. It doesn't necessarily have to be in rugby.
Okay. Jesus. I apologise.
Put you on the spot tonight.
No, I apologise to the listeners, but you were warned and you knew what you were signing up for with this podcast. So,
well, they do now.
Good stuff.
Another rugby trip. I think it was Denver. We're in Denver, Colorado. Again, before Major League Rugby. I'm not going to say which team I was associated with. Let's just say we had a good time. All that. Rugby guys are a presence in any place they go to, right? Particularly a bunch of expats over in America. So we were certainly making our presence known in the best way possible, and all the chants, the songs, and getting people involved in as much fun as possible. A group of guys took a shining to us from the get-go that were looking for something probably a little bit more than we could offer at the time. But we're probably too polite to, refuse their hospitality. So we continued having beers with them, and they were all enjoying themselves and all of that. One of our mates on the rugby team probably enjoyed himself a little bit too much and had a little bit too much. So on our way back to the hotel room, we actually split an Uber with a couple of the entourage that we picked up with that were coming in the same general direction. But our mate, who probably had one too many, passed out in the Uber ride. So his night was done there and then. We get back to the hotel room and thought it'd be a good idea to alter his physical appearance a little bit. So that the morning after, the rumours or the conversations that were had with him were extremely convincing, to the point that he had no recollection of what could have or may have happened the night previous. So that was a practical joke that I think till this day still stands. So if he's listening,
outstanding.
I'm sorry, mate.
Are you going to name drop him now? Are you going to
No,
name
I
drop him?
can't do that. I can't do that.
You got to name drop him next. So tag him in this. And the joke is now over.
Yeah.
You can always ask him to come on the show and tell his side of the story. So what's next for you then? Obviously, you're still busy playing, and I know you want to do that a lot. But actually, you're a bit of a rival over there, aren't you, with your own podcast? Yeah,
I mean, I think, well, obviously your mantra is, the off-field and the lifestyle much as possible as you're drinking your beer. Love that. So yeah, doing a bit of podcast stuff. It sort of just fell into my lap a little bit, in the sense of I love listening to podcasts. I love long form conversations like this. And I think as a player, there's not enough sort of like spotlight or opportunity for players just to show their authenticity and their personalities without, that 3-minute media trained clip that we all see. So just having those conversations one-on-one with players from all walks of life. And I think the best thing about Major League Rugby, which we talked about, is, there's so many guys coming into this honeypot from all over the world that there's so many different stories. So it's been great. I think we're up to about almost 20 episodes now. Changed a little bit, obviously, with less rugby to talk about in America, just with the current climate. But I think what's given us the opportunity with the lack of rugby is just really focusing on the players and just hearing their pathway stories. And some of them have been really interesting. So it's been good.
Who's the biggest?
So where's that going next then?
So Sam, to your question, biggest one we've had so far is probably Nick White for Australian scrum half. Actually, close mate of mine, so it was a bit of a drag to pull him onto the podcast, but he was doing me a favour. That was when he was at Exeter Chiefs, so it was a really interesting time for him in terms of just, speaking behind closed doors as to all that success and what makes them such an amazing club, and then his pathway over there. So he's probably the biggest one we've had. And then in terms of where we want to take it, I don't know. I think my biggest challenge is trying to get person-to-person or in-person conversations. It's a bit difficult, but if we had some sort of media platform to be able to go with a video content or sort of like grow it a little bit more in that capacity, then, who knows? I love, obviously, House of Rugby and the Rugby Pod, and maybe having an opportunity to grow that and making a USA version of that would be something I'm very interested in doing.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea. I mean, you could always have a referee one. I mean, whether anybody'd actually watch a show with a bunch of referees chatting shit every week, I don't know. Why don't we give it a go one day, I suppose?
Well, yeah, why not?
Interestingly, Nick White was supposed to be on a couple of weeks ago, but because he's left Exeter now and he's gone back to Oz, so we're right in the middle of his move. So he's going to come on in a couple of months' time when he's settled in. But
there you go.
Nick, if you're watching, we wish you all the best, and hopefully he's settling really quickly again. We all have to have a fallback for when the conversation dies. And each one of us has got a particular talent. And we've had referees coming on here, and they've got the guitars out. We've had all sorts of singing and things. What's your go-to talent and your party trick then, Harry?
That's a good one. I don't think I've been asked that question before, probably because I don't have many.
You heard it here first.
There you go.
That's what we always say.
Without putting myself on the spot too much, I don't think I've got anything that's worthwhile putting on camera right now. Maybe get back to me and I'll send you guys something a little bit later. But yeah, I can't. Don't have a guitar here. I can't sing.
All we want then is a couple of videos of you trying to down 2,000 pints of Guinness. That'll do. That's
there you go. Yeah. Well, anyone that knows me knows I'm horrible at drinking as well. So that'll be entertaining.
I'm supposed to be.
That is something we definitely want to see.
I have actually had plans to travel out to New York in the near future and possibly do the New York Sevens that they have around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to come over for that, but just not sure what's going on with everything that's happening with the pandemic and stuff. So it definitely won't be this year, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we've had a lot of competitions. We were all going over to the Tropical Sevens in Orlando. Then we were going to do San Diego and Denver 2 weeks running, and then there's one in Vegas as well. And
I've never been to New York, so it's always been a place that I wanted to go to, and I've been over to the States once now, but for Vegas. Did you? So when you said the MLR started in 18, so. Yeah, that was the same season and the Sevens won their home tournament at Sam Boyd Stadium.
Yes.
Yeah, so
you were there.
Same year I was there. Yeah, did the LVI. We stayed at the Westgate.
Okay.
Elvis Presley's hotel.
Yes.
So that was interesting. Was it something crazy amount of sold out shows, consecutive sold out shows. And the top 2 floors are his penthouse, and you can actually go up and see it now when people are. It is actually you can actually rent it out, but when it's not rented, they use it as for tourism.
So that's where you were staying.
Yeah, I stayed in the penthouse.
Yeah, you're up there in the penthouse.
No. Just call him the king.
Yeah, no, don't call me the king. Definitely not. Best part of Vegas, I think. Probably not being funny around, but when you walk along, I think you go to Fremont. Is it Fremont?
Yes.
You go along to Fremont, and then you're going along the Vegas Strip, and it's all obviously all glitter and glam and all the rest of it. and you walk to Fremont, it looks like, third world country kind of thing. It's all like, then you get to further along, and there's been the Pawn Star shop, and I'm like, oh cool, let's go to the Pawn Star shop. So I ended up going to the Pawn Star shop and trying to find like the guys that are famous from the TV, but they weren't filming that day, so just had a good look around there, took a photos and all that sort of stuff. But I think by far the best ever thing though was hiring a Mustang, as you do, and taking that 5-hour trip up to Grand Canyon, and enjoying that. So basically, what had happened was that we flew in, and for I thought, right, I'll not go to sleep so that when I get in, it'll be like evening time, and then I'll fall asleep because it's evening time. No, that didn't happen. I ended up staying awake, and it was my first trip to the States, so I didn't know what jet lag was really like. So I ended up like staying awake, seeing sunrise and everything like that. So we were supposed to hire the car that next morning. It was already booked to go up. I said to the girlfriend, I said, nah, that's not happening. I haven't had any sleep, and I'm not driving somewhere a different wrong side of the road, and I don't know where I'm going. So we postponed it for 24 hours, and it happened to be the same days we had the referee tournament get together. So we had to have a meeting in the early evening at the hotel, and so we shot up anyway up to the Grand Canyon, up to South Ridge. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, pictures don't do the Grand Canyon justice. You have to see it with your naked eye, and you can sit there on the wall for like half an hour and just see the actual colours and the rock change. It's stunning, like really, really nice. And of course, thinking, right, we've got to head back down the road. So you learn the sort of the road. There's obviously everywhere in America, it's a straight road. They don't know how to corner. So, you're going up there at the speed limit and then going, yeah, I'm running a bit late. So you end up flying back down, hiding behind lorries. And they've got this big-ass, huge yellow sign that says 23-mile, zero tolerance corridor, right? So for 23 miles, you have to behave yourself. And then anyone apart from that, the police don't care. So you find the road like in this Mustang. And of course, it's limited because it's a hire car, so you don't get to actually go the full tilt on it, but it's how quick it gets to that speed. You're like, bloody hell. That was just amazing. I mean, one of those trips, these things you take in, everywhere you go in the world and you pick up something. And that was just it for me for Vegas, was that trip.
On that note, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes where we put Harry back on the spot and ask him what he thinks about referees. We'll see you straight after this break. When you need clear and concise match official communication systems, look no further than the brand new AxiWe AT350.
Radios are always useful, they always help us, especially AxiWes, where all three of us can be open at any time, we can have open communication.
Available now from refcomsglobal.net. Investing profits into match official development worldwide.
Lorence,
welcome back to. Oh,
I am.
Mate, I'm just doing my piece to camera, coming back from a commercial break, and there you go and bomb it. So, Samuel, bring us out the commercial break and introduce our next question.
Well, welcome back after our second session. Mikey screwed it up again, so we're just going to go straight to Harry in America. Harry,
how's it going, boys? Good to be back. You ran a tight ship.
I hope you are listening to how we put this show together and taking some notes for your own podcast. What's it called, by the way?
Yeah, all right. So it's literally just called The Rugby Player. Nice and simple, easy to search. Available on iTunes and Spotify. It seems like most are going to iTunes for it, but yeah, The Rugby Player, and then on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as well. So
I know people think that you talk about competitors. Actually, there's loads of time in the week to listen to loads of different podcasts, and ours is a visual podcast on YouTube as well. So you can get to see all the properly funny bits that you might miss out on the podcast. Anyway, before the break, we said we were going to ask Harry some difficult questions. He's found the one so far quite challenging, so this could be a real toughie for him, because we're going to ask him his honest opinion of referees, particularly in the MLR.
Good question. Careful. Right. Well, again, I'll say what I said before the break. I'm not a referee myself, although during the game I feel like I am at some times, and I apologise to any refs that have played those games. Refs in the MLR, honestly, I think with what they're given, they're doing an amazing job. I think it's as much of a learning experience for them as it is for any new player coming into professional rugby as well. I think the big thing that could help referees over here and something that they could focus on is just that continuous development and opportunity to grow their development. And, you know, I hate that saying that refs only have one job to do, because it's bullshit. The amount of decisions that those guys have to make in seconds and then move on.
Put it there, brother.
No, yeah. It's something that probably needs to change in terms of our perspective on referees. And then when you've got 30 players screaming in your ear for 80 minutes, one job seems a little bit harsh. So
yeah, I can't believe how many players don't actually get it. When you get the referee on your side, guess what? You know,
if you do as you're told, guess what happens?
Yeah, you know.
One thing I have noticed over here, and it's the same thing we probably talked about with the players, the domestic pool of refs, just because they probably haven't had that exposure to higher level rugby than MLR. You get guys that have played professional rugby overseas and know how to not manipulate, but create nuance with their relationship and sort of, you know, get the referee on their side, or maybe assert their authority can change a game over here. So I just think more exposure those refs have at a higher level over here in the States is only going to improve.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you came over from Australia, having learnt the game over there. You've played international rugby at schoolboy level. You've got people who were ex-England captains who are coming over to the States. You got ex-French captains that have been over in the States as well. It's easy to bring that talent in, buy the talent in. Then you've got to have the officials to match that experience and knowledge. And you can't just buy the referees in for a start. The referee pool isn't owned by a wealthy billionaire. So it's really tough. And I think something in the States, that we've talked about it for so long, is that it's a real melting pot ready to explode. And it will be brilliant, especially when we can get high school rugby really involved and collegiate rugby really involved. And we can see those big games like you have with the college football and things like that. But we've got to have those officials that underpin it. Otherwise, it makes it ridiculous. And maybe something needs to change. Maybe there has to be a bigger package that says we have got to bring these guys. And we want them not just to come in and do an exchange game once, 1 week, twice a year, but actually bring people in, get them into the rest of the referees, get them into Div 1 and things like that as well, and bring everybody up from the bottom.
One of the interesting things I've heard since being over in the States and sort of seeing it firsthand as well is, sports culture in America is quite confrontational with officials. Like, you look at football and basketball and hockey and baseball, like there's always those confrontational interactions between officials and players or coaches. And, you know, for entertainment value or whatever it may be, it works. But in rugby and in the culture of rugby, that's just so far from the truth. And sort of aligning those two different perceptions of what a nice middle ground is and still getting the value out of, you know, a solid refereeing performance and an entertainment value in a game is tough.
On a different note, you know how when you buy clothing, it's got the label sewn in on the inside, and normally they have that vertical stitching on one side and the other, just so that maybe you can hang it on the back of a door or something. And we normally wear those on our backs, don't we? The labels. I'm just wondering why it looks like your top has got the label facing forward, Harry.
No,
because you've got two little things here on your top.
Am I actually?
Is it inside? Is it backwards?
No, mate, you're taking the piss.
Oh.
I was just checking where you were going with that.
It could have been a world's first. Harry could have been wearing his top backwards for the first time ever. It's like a Guinness World Record.
Is that an ongoing joke that you do with all your guests here and try and get one?
No, it isn't actually. But and listen, we know you've only got about 10 minutes left with us, so it's time to put you on the spot again, because we're going to go straight into this week's rumour mill. And this is where we announce before anybody else that Manu Tuilagi is going to Sale Sharks. Now, James has also said, hashtag you heard it here first. Now, James, who's not with us tonight because the internet has not travelled far enough north, now he came up with this cracker 2 weeks ago. Talking about posts, Sam, how's yours doing? Have you had your little parcel yet from 3 weeks ago? Has it not arrived?
Moving on.
It got to New Zealand quicker than it got to Malta.
Yeah. I'm going to answer that swiftly. Moving on.
So James has done really well, and we do tell him he's talking out of his arse most of the time, and we think his rumours are crap, but he's actually done quite well. So you've got a lot to live up to tonight, Harry.
Righto.
Yeah, 2 in a row, 2 in 2 weeks.
2 in a row.
So Harry, over to you. Give us the biggest and best rumour in the rugby world today.
Biggest and best rumour in the rugby world today from Major League Rugby, I guess, is there's always rumours surrounding new signings of players and everything like that. So the latest rumour mill over here is that there's going to be a mass exodus from Australian Super Rugby over to 3 of the expansion teams in the US.
Now, tell me, what do you think about Hawaii? Everybody thinks Hawaii coming in is the best thing ever. But where do you think they're going to get their talent from? Again,
it's an issue. Put a pair of rugby boots on any of those Polynesian boys over there and tell them to run straight and hard. I think they'll do a pretty good job. 1 to 8.
You do know they're going to be tackling you next season, don't you?
Well, I don't know if we'll see them because we're Eastern Conference, they're Western Conference, so I don't know if we actually play them. But I think the foreign cap now is 12 players. So in a match day 23, you can pull in 12 guys from anywhere, really. So it's just plugging those holes with local talent.
Yeah, you've got to at the moment. It's such a small and junior sport in the States. To bring that talent, to grow the game, you've got to be able to bring loads of people in, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing is their ownership group looks like they could probably throw the boots on tomorrow and play for them as well. That'd be pretty interesting.
What they're trying to do as well is obviously they're making the game a bit of more of a spectacle. So you get TV rights and you get the sponsorships, the backing that obviously MLR needs, so that the game can grow. And then when they see the sport being bigger than what it is, then you get the youth system set up, and as you said before, with the high schools and all the rest of it, and with the programs and things. And once that's sorted out, it's happy days then, isn't it? Because once you start getting them from that level, you should be okay.
100%. Mike, what else you got for me? That was easy.
That was easy.
Well, right. I'll tell you what.
Worst coach you've ever played for?
Oh.
You want it hard, mate. You want it tough.
Yeah, okay.
You've got to name names.
Yeah, and why?
Actually, this is an easy one. Worst coach I've ever played for is my old roommate.
Oh, names?
He another Aussie guy. His name's Chris Edwards, and the only reason I put him in that category is because I just used to undermine him all the time. And
was that because he loved you? It must be a bit of brotherly love going on there. Lorence, whilst we can sort of see you doing the robot on one screen but not the other. What's going on? What have you heard this week?
And he's gone.
To be honest enough, apart from Tuilagi's story, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, well, it's taken that long to get over to Kenya. That's why. It's like trying to post a dodgy weir headband to Malta, and it's taken 2 weeks. It's still not there.
Oh God.
It's been Nick, mate. Your postman is going to be walking around.
The only Scotsman in the 22 dropouts, sets it all up and everything like that, and I'm the one that doesn't bloody get the head back.
Actually, boys, I got a question for you. and everything that's going on in Super Rugby down in Australia with the rule changes and variations going on, you might have to change your name from a 22 dropout.
Yeah.
We might have to go to the 2250 dropouts.
Yeah.
We'll call
At least
ourselves.
they try it out in Australia
bring-
because nobody watches Australian Super League at the moment anyway. I mean, even in Will Greenwood saying, nah, Rupert is even going, nah, if I could watch one game a week, it would not be any of the Aussie games. Even on his podcast this week.
Mikey, we'll rebrand ourselves and go back to please bring back the Scum 5, please.
Did you say Scrum or Scum 5? I can't.
Scum 5, yeah. Well, please bring back the Scum 5.
I am going to. I do.
I've got a rumor.
Go on.
Right. So you know how like the Six Nations games are still to be played to finish off.
Yeah. So maybe. Yeah.
Have you heard the absolute bollocks that's coming out of the frickin' Six Nations now, or whatever it is, that the Scotland and Wales game is going to be played at frickin' Twickenham?
Or Wembley. Or Wembley.
I'm sorry, but no, that's not happening.
How does it go, mate?
No. It's not happening. If it's not getting played at frickin' Cardiff, then it should be getting played at Murrayfield as a one-off. It shouldn't be getting played in that frickin' concrete jungle that celebrates a rose as a chest. Nonsense. Shocking.
I knew we'd get here.
Yeah, and you wonder why he's only allowed in England twice a year for a week at a time.
Yeah.
Airports are allowed.
Yeah, we don't mind you being in airports because normally it means you're leaving.
Yeah, no man's land, yeah.
Now, I do have a rumour, but I have been asked not to say anything just yet. But now James has got another one. That Rocanagungo is actually leaving Bath, and I said it here first. Everybody's going to Beziers, and I thought if I said everybody who's leaving the rugby club is going to Beziers, it would come true at some point. And it looks like this one is coming true because he's had his medical sometime last week, I think. So it's pretty much a done deal. 10 million euros being pumped into Beziers. They can buy whoever they want. They can even buy Harry. And I mean, you know, he's a top-class bloke. He's expensive. So, yeah, Harry, fancy a bit of French, you can go to Beziers, mate.
I don't know. New York City's a pretty good place to live.
Yeah, we'll give you that, actually. Yeah, we'll probably give you that.
Harry's fine playing at fly half as long as he's not got a big Hawaiian running down his channel.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid because Harry's got some other commitments today, and it is just about 4:00 in the afternoon. And now we've.
You mean he's actually got to go to training?
No training, not yet.
No training. All right, so I thought you were going to bum out of training again or something like that, so you go to Vegas.
Yeah, right.
No, he needs to get his Guinness card stamped. He's off to the pub.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, listen, Harry, mate, just before Mikey tells you to bugger off or whatever, I've already subscribed onto your podcast, mate, and I'll start listening to it.
Champion. Thank you.
Yeah, we all will be doing that, mate. Definitely. Just before you go, tell everybody what it is, what the name is again.
So, the Rugby Player Podcast, available on iTunes and Spotify.
Sweet.
There you go.
Easy as that.
Doesn't get any better than that, does it? Yeah. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. You're welcome to come and join us anytime. And next time we need a poem, a song, playing a musical instrument, or standing on one hand drinking a pint of Guinness upside down as well.
Yeah.
Definitely
Guinness.
Or a tour guide in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've got a spare room, we're all coming over next week.
Yeah. We'll crash in the rugby club. So good.
And before you go, what the view's like out your window.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, we do. Of course we do. Oh, that's man.
What?
Man.
Are you in Manhattan right now? Is that Manhattan?
No, I'm in Brooklyn looking at Manhattan.
Yeah, Manhattan's over there, mate, across the bay.
Yeah.
Oh, shut up. My geography's poor, okay? That's amazing, mate. That's quality. That is.
Mate, we're well, Gel. In fact, total respect. This is the first Australian we've ever liked. Well done.
I regret showing you that because I feel like now you're going to be on my case to get over here.
Well,
yeah. I'm on lastminute.com at the moment, just booking some flights, all right?
Yeah, sweet.
But seriously,
Good man.
we'd love to see you when we come over to the States and we're refereeing either tournaments or anything else, helping out with some ref development over there. We'd love to have a catch up with you. We'd love to stay at your apartment as well. But no, it'd be great if we could catch up. Just before you go, how long before you are eligible to play for the USA?
So I got my eligibility 12 months ago, but coming off the back of shoulder surgery, so I haven't had enough game time to put the case forward.
Fair enough.
Watch the space, yeah?
Watch this space. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Harry Bennett, USA Eagles, number 10.
Sounds all right.
When that happens, mate, signed shirt is the one that's going behind there.
Beautiful.
All right, mate. You take care. Stay safe. Be good.
Appreciate
Take care,
it.
brother.
Nice.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye.
Lorence died like freaking 10 minutes ago. Do you know that?
Yeah, Lawrence. Yeah, absolutely. Lawrence disappeared somewhere. Oh, he's back. Maybe Harry was pinching all his bandwidth.
I don't know. Well, I've just sent Harry a friend request, and I've just thingied his podcast as well. So
Super. We're still recording, by the way. This is still going out live. It's our show.
Oh no, you can't.
What
You've got to edit that nonsense out. You can't be putting that in, right? Because I'm going to fuck it up now. I'm just going to fuck it up right now because you're an absolute fucking toss, mate, right? And everything they say about you is a fucking truth, right? You're such a wanker, right? Honestly, you're a fucking toss bag. And I'm going to cover the screen now because you're fucking useless.
Right. Right now, I'm going to put
hold
on.
My name's
showing your
Lawrence.
pants.
My name's Lawrence.
He's gone again as well. Oh no! Oh mate, I just love that. But Harry, isn't he a lovely guy?
Yeah, top lad. Sounds like an absolute bloke, mate. You know, can't wait to go to stay. Can't wait to fucking freeload.
I was going to say, isn't his apartment much better as well?
Yeah. You know, he's a nice chap and all the rest of it, but his apartment's fucking better than his.
Mint. Hey, but what do you think about Rugby going over to Bezier then? That's a big signing, isn't it?
Yeah, I tell you, honestly, I mean, there's obviously
we're
something
suffering
massive
here. We just don't have enough money. The squads are all getting cut down, so there's not as many players needed. They're going to go somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, is that Div 2? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're obviously looking at coming up quite quickly. You know, and you know what it's like in France. Once they get going, don't they? So should be an interesting couple of seasons for them.
Yeah, I mean they're Div 2 matches, and like our championship, they're all on TV. They get big gates going in and everything else like that. It's going to do well over there, I'm sure, because as they've proven before, all they need is cash injection just to get them going. And once they're going, they're moving, aren't they?
Yeah, but do you notice though? Have you noticed though that in France? Excuse me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. But have you noticed in France? Because I think the Scottish lad that we had on a few weeks back, he was telling us about this, wasn't he?
Johnny Beattie.
France have changed in their setup, haven't they, for the top teams in the pro, so that they have to have the academy thing, the way that they're doing the rugby now. So they've got the academies and the youth system coming through or whatever, so that they stop having these, if you like, foreign imports, so that France can actually be a rugby team again, an actual, a proper setup. Because France, as a rugby team, have suffered for what, 6 to 8 years, maybe. Where they haven't.
I think having a decent culture now, having Sean Edwards there now, who's making them do the fitness, making them do the training sessions, rather than having the baguette and the smoke and a glass of wine. He's making them run. So it's a whole culture change, and getting, I know this sounds harsh, but getting rid of the older guard who got this poor attitude and bringing through the new players who want to work hard. I think that's been a huge change for them. But we're talking.
What that does, though, it opens up for the foreign players coming into Division 2, and that's what's happening right now. It's because of that.
Yeah, and their Division 2's got lots of money.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about Rocknagoony and Bath. Now, as far as I know, Bath have been asked to take, their players have been asked to take a 15% pay cut across the board, which I think was sort of unanimously accepted. However, Rocknaguni and Faletau were asked if they would take 25% cut to their salary. So, okay, they're big time players and they're getting big salaries, but I guess they felt that that wasn't quite fair. Now it does look as though Faletau is going to re-sign for Bath on the updated terms and conditions, but I guess that's why Rocknaguni's gone. And we see people do have to look after themselves as well, don't they? I suppose we should remember. I know people go, "Oh well, it's not fair. Everybody's struggling," and yes, everybody is. But if you were sat at home and you were struggling in your line of work at the moment because of the crisis and everything, and you had the opportunity to go and earn a lot of money by just changing the company you were working for, I think you might do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's put this in simple form, right? Professional rugby player, you only get so many years of playing at a higher level, right? And you only get so many years of being able to earn decent money, right? Whilst you're playing basically your favourite sport. You put your body through so much that these guys are entitled to, as far as I'm concerned, to get whatever they get. As one certain person always said, this is not soccer, where, as my opinion is, they're well overpaid. But, that's the fact that these guys have been able to do that, and for me, if they want to, towards the tail end of the career, go and look at, for example, I'm not saying that Greg Laidlaw is doing that, but, he's now going to Japan. He signed a 2-year contract and he's away to Japan. Something we had said that, we'd said that in our rumour mill, that he was possibly going up there. And there's another one that's come true. Yay! But the thing is for me is that, if players want to go across and earn a bit of money and play champagne rugby, how France like to play rugby and stuff, let them go and do that. They're more entitled to go and do that. And it is at the end of the day. But the other part of this, though, is that back in the day, when rugby was amateur, if you like, or just starting to go into the professional area, most players still had some sort of actual full-time job, because a lot of people get lost as in, what do I do after rugby? And that's how the sport has changed from being amateur to professional, is it allows people to go and do what they do for an X amount of years. But people now realise, you've got people like all the international guys have all got, some of them are doctors and surgeons and everyone else, top-end engineers, lawyers, all that stuff. And that's what allows them, they've got something that they can fall back on. Back in the day, they can do that, So if they want to go, as far as I'm concerned, let's say, if they want to go and play, wherever it may be for the last few years of their career and all this, and earn a few bob in their twilight, you know what? Bash on, boys. We would do it, and we're not, professional in any shape or form. But if you got a chance to go and do a job for a few years where you're going to get paid the next amount of money, tell you what, it'd be hard to turn around and say no to that, wouldn't it? Especially when you're looking after your family. You're looking after your family.
And do you know what? There was a debate about Manu and what he was going to do in his future, and whether he was going to stay in England or not. And of course, the big issue came up about you've got to play in England to be eligible to be play for England. And there was lots of people talking about that and saying, well, if he went to France, it's not far away. And surely Eddie would just pick him anyway. And then, of course, people were saying, well, if he goes to Japan, actually, although Japan's a lot further away, it would be better because, yes, you get paid a lot of money in France, but the toll on the body is huge. You've got games week in, week out. Then at the end of the season, you've got the repechage, and then you've got the finals, and then you've got the cup games and everything else. Whereas in Japan, it's much less of a strenuous season. And that might have been better, but we've got to change those rules. The only way we're going to get that, where people can go and apply their trade elsewhere, and then leave to come and play for your country again, is if we get this global calendar, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything will align. Anyway, something I heard yesterday. Snow White was walking back from town. She'd just been down to do her shopping. Walks through the forest, gets up to her cottage, and realised that there's smoke billowing from a clearing where her cottage was. And as she dropped her shopping, ran through the trees. Left and right, they were whizzing past her. And as she got closer and closer, she could hear somebody shouting, "Scotland's going to win the World Cup! Scotland's going to win the World Cup!" And she was desperately worried. And as she got closer, she couldn't see or hear from sneezy or bashful. And then she heard this voice again going, "Scotland went for the World Cup! Scotland for the World Cup!" And she said, "Thank fuck for that. Dopey's all right."
I'll tell
Thought you like that, mate.
No, you don't need to be sorry, mate. I had an idea where you were going when you started, but it wasn't actually the World Cup. It was somebody was saying that was it Greg Laidlaw actually that posted and said on an interview that he reckons that Scotland will win the Six Nations within sort of the next 2 to 3 seasons.
You know, in international rugby, and it's particularly in the Six Nations, there's a really fine line between success and failure. And in England, we call that Hadrian's Wall. Yeah,
well, it's one of those things that we're on top of you, and we're quite glad that we're quite glad that we're up there. And let's see. Over the last 3 years, you've only won it once, so we're doing not too bad lately, are we?
Just tell me how many times Scotland have won it then in the last same amount of time.
Yeah, we haven't won it as many times as what you have. But
and listen, while we're at it, what do you call a Scotsman holding a bottle of champagne after a World Cup final?
A freak occurrence.
A waiter.
Literally, yeah. Everybody says, about Scotland being a second-tier nation, the way that the results that they get, and every now and again, we get that result against a Southern Hemisphere team, and Scotland's always got that tag of they were so close, they did really well, they should be proud, but they genuinely have the potential to actually be a very, very strong outfit, and the problem they have is one thing. You gotta win away from home. If you can't win away from home, you're not going to be able to compete against the top sides, and that's as simple as that. It's fine being able to win your home games, and you should always be able to win your home games. You should always make it. Like we used to call it Fortress Twickenham, and that. Back in the late 80s and all the 90s, basically, wasn't it? Where it was Fortress Twickenham, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When was the last time we won in Twickenham? 26 years ago, whatever it was. I think we still haven't won there either. You got close
last year, though, didn't you?
Yeah, last year. Yeah. And that's the thing, though. See, and this is my point: is that we should have won that game. It should have been in the bag. We should have had it. How the hell do we let that happen at the tail end of a game? We should be savvy enough as pro players to actually be able to kill a game off. But then again, you could also argue, how on earth did England let you come put 31 points on them for nil? Well, it was more than 31 points. We actually put. Yeah, I think you've got a few before. Anyway, tell me what's the greatest year in Scottish rugby? 1990. Next year. 1990. Lorence gets it. And 1990, and Will Carlin. Did you watch Will Carlin's thing on House of Rugby? No, but I think we should get him on. Yeah. Well, I listened to it and I watched it on YouTube as well, because it's actually longer than the one that he did with Nigel Owens. It's that good, right? And he's got the best bookshelf cabinets ever behind him. It's like amazing. It's like a proper library going on. Like. Oh, I did listen to it. Yeah, because he was saying that there's only like 4 copies of Viz on there that are his, and all the other books for his wife or something. Yeah, I did. Yeah. So one of the questions that that asked him in that was, what are the biggest regrets? Like not winning the World Cup in '91, that sort of stuff and whatnot. And he actually said, you know what? No, he says probably the biggest one is not winning against Scotland in 1990 because we were too freaking arrogant. And he actually says it. He just says it plainly. Too arrogant, and we just thought we were going to go up there and do a job, and you know what? They actually done one on us. And he came out and he says that's one of the hardest things. Yeah, he says that's one of the hardest things that he wished that he could right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So,
There you go. Anyway, just before we say goodnight to everybody, what do you call 15 men sitting in the room watching the World Cup final on TV? Scottish team. Anyway. Listen, it's been wonderful. We've had a great time tonight with Harry as well. Thanks, Sam. We loved having you all with us. Just before we go, we want to say make sure you check out the Doddy Weir Foundation website and go and help support him, particularly now that things might be getting a bit easier. I'm sure some of those fundraising things will be coming back. And you can fundraise even when we're in lockdown just by going to flavorly.com and getting some of this genius craft lager. And 5p from every can that you buy will go to the Doddy Weir Foundation as well. And trust me, Sam, you'll love it, mate. You'll love it. But do go to my name. I'm trying to do a serious link here, mate. Stop swearing.
You still
you can go to support the Doddy Weir Foundation for MND if you go to www.myname, then the figure 5, doddy.co.uk. Don't forget to follow us on social media. It's at 22 Dropouts on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can actually catch us on LinkedIn. Harry mentioned that earlier. And go and check out Harry's podcast too, The Rugby Player. Again, he's on all of those same platforms. When you finish listening to this, go onto Spotify, Acast, wherever you get us from, and just type that in and go and watch his or listen to his podcast as well. Next week, we've got another fabulous guest. Next week, I'm sure you'll hear it here first. You just wait until Rock and the Goonie signs that contract and you'll know this is the best rugby show around. Until then, we'll say goodnight to you. And from me, from Lorence, and from Sam tonight, take care, stay safe, and have a very good night. Good night.
Strawberry milkshake and large fries, please.
Do you want to go large, sir?